Rocking the Cat Eyes by buggachat. Chapter 3 Dress. Just a few hours later, Marinette was leading him into her studio to show him something, her hands over his eyes to make it a surprise. He smiled, always excited to see whatever Marinette created, especially when she seemed as excited about it as she did now. Keep keep your eyes closed, don't peek. Whatever you say, my lady, he said, though through a smile, keeping his eyes closed and even replacing her hands with his own once she pulled away. After some gentle sounds of shuffling fabric, she said, "Okay, you can look." His eyes opened, landing on the fabric that she was holding up for him, a billowing dark green that nearly shimmered under the light. A dress. It reminded him of his nails. He grinned and stepped forward, reaching to inspect the fabric, a flutter in his heart at how completely, utterly talented his partner was. It was impeccably made, as all of her works were, and the only criticism he could have was the fact that it wasn't on her or a mannequin right now. He was sure he could appreciate it in all its beauty being held up by her hands like this instead of an actual form. "It's beautiful, Marinette," he said, looking up to her and hoping his eyes communicated just how much he meant it. It seemed they had, because her smile only widened, her cheeks burning pink as she held it up even higher. "You like it?" "Of course." He backed up a few paces to get a more complete view. "Are you going to wear it?" "Me? No," she laughed quietly. "It's not my size." He nodded, hand at his chin as he appraised it more. Marinette often made clothes for her friends or as commissions. "Who'd you make it for?" "You." He almost laughed, thinking it a joke, but then he lifted his gaze back to hers and was taken aback by the brutal honesty in her eyes. He blinked. She stared at him. He gaped a little, a strange feeling swirling in his guts that he couldn't explain. "Are you serious?" he nearly whispered, eyes falling back down to the dress. The beautiful dress, made personally by her incredible, careful hand. Maria had made plenty of clothes for him before, but never a dress. Nothing like this. It almost felt too elegant, too good for him in a way he couldn't voice. She made it for him? You, she chuckled. "You asked me to." His eyes snapped back up to hers. "What? You most certainly hadn't." "When?" "After girls' night." I, he gaped. He'd asked her to make him a dress? "I'm so sorry, Marinette. I was so drunk. I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean to put you through all this effort." "Psh!" She waved him off. "Trust me. I know you were drunk. I was there. But," she stepped closer to him, holding the dress out to him. "I just, thought, why not? I love making dresses, and I didn't have anything better to do." That was most certainly a lie. Of course Myrna had better things to do. She was often so busy working on projects and commissions and the business that she was starting up. The idea that she'd put all that aside to make him something that he drunkenly demanded of her was a tad horrifying, if he were being honest. Still, he reached forward, taking the dress from her hands, his heart picking up in his chest. "Well, put it on," she said, nearly bouncing on her heels. "It's not completely done yet. I haven't fitted it to the model." Speechless, he nodded and carefully set the dress aside to take his clothes off. He couldn't believe she did this for him, over some silly drunken comment. Mechanically, he slipped the dress on. In a moment, Burnett was behind him, zipping up the back, and he held his hands in his stomach as the fabric tightened around him. It was snug, but not uncomfortable by any means. It fit him perfectly, which made sense, considering Marinette had his measurements well memorized. He looked down at the way his nails looked against the matching hues, the long fabric billowing over his feet. He'd worn a lot of clothes in all types of styles, but he'd never worn anything like this before. Suddenly, Hands were grasping his shoulders and turning him forward towards the full-length mirror. He looked up. Somehow, despite having been a professional model, and despite the fact that this was merely a fitting, the first thought that came to mind was a nerve-wracking, "Where should I put my hands?" The second thought was that he had no thoughts. His mind went completely blank as he stared at the dress. He hadn't realized it was off the shoulder when she'd held it up, and the way it changed his figure made him look so feminine. And strangely, despite his arms and shoulders being exposed, he got hot, very hot. Warmth pooling in his stomach, blooming in his chest, and burning his cheeks. No, he was wrong. He did have a second thought. His second thought was that he was. Ow! Sorry, Renner gasped. And he had somehow forgotten that she was here. How could he forget that? She was knelt beside him, pinning the dress, and his eyes locked onto hers through the mirror. Her eyes flicked away from his to the spot that she was working on. Sorry, don't mind me. He frowned and looked back at himself. The dress was beautiful. It was elegant, and it was wonderful. And what else could he have ever expected? Marinette made it, and her work was always phenomenal. But when was he ever going to wear this? When would the opportunity ever arise for Adrien Agreste to waltz around Paris in a floor-length off-the-shoulder gown? Imagine if father saw you like this, a traitorous part of the back of his mind said. The part of his mind that never seemed to die, no matter how hard he tried to suffocate it. He opened his mouth to apologize again, to apologize for all the effort she'd put into such an amazing piece that would only be wasted on him. But she spoke before he could. "You look like a princess." Laughter burst from his throat. Inappropriate laughter, because he didn't necessarily think it was funny. She just said it so genuinely, so compassionately, it caught him and the nervous coiling of his stomach off guard. "I'm serious," she chided, now standing tall at his side, her hands placed at the backs of his shoulders. "You're beautiful." "If I'm the princess, what does that make you?" he asked, because it was easier to tease than to dwell on the way her words sent a shiver up his spine, or how red his face looked in the mirror. "A knight in shining armor," she said easily, closing her eyes and leaning forward to press her lips to his shoulder. "Easy. You know, I used to have a whole fantasy about that." "You did?" "Mm-hmm." She cleared. She leaned her cheek against him, her eyes meeting his through the reflections. "You've always been my princess." "You like that?" Laughter burst from his throat again, because apparently his body didn't know how else to express all the emotions in his gut. His cheeks ached, and he looked nearly mad, the stupid smile on his face beyond his control. "If father could see you now," the voice said again, more in reference to the terrible smile than the dress. And he couldn't help but find it funny, in some sick and twisted way. He smiled harder. His eyes flicked back to Marinette's, the heat in his cheeks doused cold by the tears in her eyes. "Marinette?" he gasped. "Oh, nothing," she excused, stepping back from him and wiping at her eyes. She sniffled. You look so happy." "I look crazy." He brushed a strand of hair from his eye, awkwardly, the corners of his mouth twitching as he tried to stop smiling. He wasn't sure why it was so hard to contain. His cheeks were hurting, and he wasn't even sure that he was happy. He just felt strange. She looked at him with a hard look. "No, you don't." Once again, he wanted to apologize. He wanted to tell her, "Thank you so much for the dress, Marinette, but I'm never, ever going to wear this again." But how could he, after all the effort she went through? How could he, when it was wonderful and it was beautiful and he wanted to wear it? In some fictitious world where the opportunity could feasibly arise, he would wear it in a heartbeat. That just wasn't the world he lived in, and he knew, deep down, that once the fitting was complete, the garment would rot away in the back of his closet, completely wasted on him. He eyed himself in the mirror once again. He really, really didn't want it to go to waste. I can make you more, Marinette said, and he saw his own eyes widen before he turned to face her. Maybe something more casual? And I wasn't sure what style of dress you like, so I kind of just picked something I thought you'd look good in, and you do. But if there's any specific style or colour or fabric that you like? Marinette, he said, staring at her, I can't ask you to do that. You can't ever wear them. Psh, she waved him off, and he couldn't believe this was happening. You can. I'd love you to. Marinette, I'm not. Tried, cutting himself off. I'm not like you. I can't just wear dresses whenever I want. He couldn't say that. It felt too honest, too raw, and somehow wrong and painful at the same time. I don't. I don't want more dresses. He couldn't say that either. It'd be a lie. You have more important things to do, he settled on. Her face hardened. You're important. I I'm sorry that my dumb drunk self made you feel like you had to do this, but you don't. It's okay. Your dumb drunk self wasn't dumb at all. She was very. Her eyes widened. He was. They. Horror flashed across her features. Oh my god. You were very sweet and cute, and I wanted to do something for that. You. He simply shook his head, turning his back fully to the mirror so he could look and watch the zipper as he tugged it down. She whispered, I'm sorry. Huh? He turned to her with a frown. For what? I don't know, she stammered. I'm bad with words. I think you're eloquent, my lady, he purred, slipping his arms out of the dress. He had no idea why she was apologizing. He hadn't been bothered at all by anything she'd said. Ha ha, she deadpanned. That's the funniest joke you've ever told. He pulled the dress up and off of himself, and she helped, taking the fabric from him and folding it over her arm. I'll have it fully done as soon as I can, she said, as she stepped back into his jeans. As he stepped back into his jeans. You know, I really would love to make more for you, but if you feel bad about it taking my time, we could always go shopping. Huh? He slipped into his shirt. Shopping? You know, she murmured, for more clothes like this. I have plenty of clothes, he snorted, and she frowned as he stepped forward and pressed a kiss to her cheek. Thank you so much for the dress, my lady. I love it. I don't need any more. If you change your mind, she muttered. He shook his head. Anyway, he tried. How about dinner? Uh, Adrian. He's they're getting there. Um, this is fun. It's so silly. the character. I love when characters are just like so oblivious. I went and looked through the tag to find more, so expect more with the specific tag of Adrian is oblivious because it's so silly. Yes, I seriously need to go through tabs because I went through my tabs, opened a whole bunch more tabs, closed some tabs, opened a whole bunch more. I've definitely got more than I started with, honestly. But yeah, now I opened a whole bunch more miraculous tabs, and then PGO tabs, Percy Jackson tabs. So that'll probably be my main focus for the next while. Like it used to be Marauders and Percy Jackson. It'll probably be Percy Jackson and Miraculous. Oh, so many powers. Oh, this is so fun. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed. Bye bye.